What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Our Killer Obsession. I'm James,
I'm Crystal.
and tonight's episode is about Jerry Brudos.
Jerome Jerry Brudos was born in South Dakota in 1939, but his family was constantly moving. As a toddler, he was bounced back and forth between Oregon and California before his folks finally landed near Salem, Oregon. That is where something would happen that would stick with this 5-year-old for the rest of his life. He found his first pair of stiletto high heels.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Not where I thought we were going with that.
Nope, he was a foot fetish kind of guy.
Okay, all right.
He found them in a nearby junkyard, and the child was immediately smitten. He brought the pumps home with him where he could have the object of his affection with him always. Although his mother, Eileen, didn't share his adoration. Eileen had never wanted another boy. When she discovered that she was pregnant, she really prayed for a little girl. Her firstborn, Larry, she adored. But she could never seem to forget that Jerry was just another subpar son. Yeah, complete disappointment. And disappointment evolved into open hostility. Eileen would try and humiliate her secondborn by dressing him in girls' clothes while heaping praise and love upon Larry.
Wow, okay. That's,
Very hostile upbringing and dressed like a little girl because she really wanted a little girl.
yeah, I mean, I'm no psychologist or psychiatrist, but I would say that'd be a little damaging.
Big time, as we're going to learn. When she discovered her son's junkyard heels, she flew into a rage and set them on fire. Something in his childlike brain snapped that day, and his obsession with women's footwear became a full-blown fetish. He was caught attempting to steal his first-grade teacher's shoes from under her desk.
Wow,
Right.
okay. Wow.
And later, those of a neighborhood girl who came to visit. He also became a panty thief, sneaking into nearby homes to steal women's underwear.
Wow. All right, man. Holy cow. And it sounds like this all started really, really early in life and escalated
Really?
pretty quickly.
Yep. Really, really young. So 5 years old and then through elementary school, extreme escalation. As he grew older, the young man's fantasies only became darker and increasingly violent. Psychiatrists examining him later in his life believed his fantasies revolved around a desperate wish to take revenge on his mother for her demeaning attitude toward him in his formative years. Around the age of 17, Jerry began stalking women. He would hold them at knife point, knock them down, render them unconscious before making off with their shoes. So all that for some shoes.
I mean, everybody's got their thing, I guess.
The shoes.
Wow.
Yeah. On one particular occasion, he threatened to stab a young woman, forcing her to strip naked while he photographed her, then took her shoes home to bed with him. He was arrested for this crime and was sent to the Oregon State Hospital in Salem, where he underwent extensive psychiatric evaluations and was diagnosed with schizophrenia.
Wow. Holy cow.
This is another one of those nature versus nurture situations.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say
It was
it
a
sounds
nurture.
like he was damaged a little.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
It seems to be a common situation with these killers, as terrible, terrible upbringings. And
It really does seem to be something, every one of them almost has a terrible childhood.
yeah,
Almost.
has some animosity towards their mom.
Yeah.
Despite multiple confessions of his fetishes, including fantasies of chopping up young women to explicitly rearrange their body parts inside of a freezer, the teenager only spent 9 months in the hospital before being deemed sane enough to release in 1957. This is exactly what we talked about with Edmund Kemper, too.
Mm-hmm.
He was sent to the insane asylum when he was a teenager for killing his grandparents and was deemed sane, and then went on to kill a bunch of co-eds.
Rather quickly, too, like that. I mean,
Yeah.
what, 9 months, a year, or
Yeah.
whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not very quick.
No.
Very long. That's,
And then he's confessing to all these horrible things he wants to do, and they're like, you're all right.
yeah, dude, that's weird.
Yeah. He graduated from high school and then tried joining the army, but was discharged for having, quote, bizarre obsessions. Mhm.
So nothing changed. It
Nothing-
sounds
nothing's-
like.
nothing's
So
different.
All that was for nothing.
Yeah.
Wow. Uh-oh.
He later found work at a Corvallis radio station before settling down and marrying 17-year-old Darcy Metzler in 1961. Friends and neighbors described Jerry as a, quote, devoted family man who neither drank nor smoked and rarely, if ever, used profanity. From the outside looking in, the Brudos family was a normal one, just your typical 2 kids and a dog type of suburban household.
Okay. All right. But behind them doors, sounds like it was a whole nother world.
Oh yes, as we will learn. Just like you said, everything was not as it seemed. Jerry forced his bizarre desires on his wife Darcy, brainwashing her into performing all his sexual demands. He required her to perform household chores while nude and wearing only high heels.
Mm.
Yeah. Apparently, she wasn't a willing participant either.
Wow, that's terrible.
Mm-hmm. But wanting to be a proper 1960s housewife, she put up with her husband's behavior for a few years, but after the birth of their second child, she had had enough. She felt she was nothing more than a fetish object in high heels. While having their second child, she actually barred Jerry from the hospital room, and the rejection was enough to send him over the edge and into a downward spiral in which his repressed, murderous, and necrophiliac tendencies came rushing back. During this time, he described experiencing migraines and blackouts. To, quote, cure himself, he began his nightly panty raids again and started dressing in full drag. His psychiatrist described this behavior as a way to disassociate and escape from reality. Is that really why? Or is it because his mom dressed him like a girl and he liked high heels?
Man.
Was he just
we'll never know.
confused? Right, because he was
Yeah.
abused, obviously.
Yeah.
So maybe it was something he felt comfortable doing. On January 26, 1968, his homicidal fantasies came true. 19-year-old Linda Slauson was selling encyclopedia sets door to door when she made the fatal mistake of knocking on his door. Jerry lured her inside to the basement and with his family upstairs, knocked her out with a 2x4.
Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm. After strangling her, he dressed her lifeless body in various undergarments he had stolen and shoes, imposed and photographed her, and then cut off her left foot with a hacksaw, which he kept in his basement freezer and would bring it out to model shoes for him whenever he had the urge.
Wow.
Right?
Man.
So you have such
There's
a foot.
clearly something going on.
Oh,
wrong
yeah,
in
he's
his
clearly
brain there.
psychotic.
Wow.
But he had such a foot fetish, he kept one.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Oof.
Just for modeling and stuff. Oh man.
Yeah, in the shoes he's stealing.
Wow.
Her body was later dumped in the Willamette River and has never been recovered. Jerry would kill again 3 times over the course of 15 months, as well as attempt to assault several other young women who managed to escape. His victims after Linda Slauson were, one was Jan Susan Whitney, 23. She was a motorist whose car broke down on Interstate 5 between Salem and Albany. He offered to drive her to his home with the excuse of letting her call a tow truck. And while still in the car, he strangled her with a leather strap and then raped her. He kept the body hanging from a pulley in his garage for several days, during which he dressed and photographed it and had sex with it.
Oh my goodness. So he just went all out after he was rejected from the baby thing there, and wow.
And it gets worse.
Oh.
This time, he cut off one of her breasts and made a resin mold of it that he used as a paperweight.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Afterward, he tied the body to a piece of railroad iron and threw it in the Willamette, along with Slauson's foot, which had started to rot.
Oh, gross.
So his foot souvenir he had to get rid of. On March 27th, 1969, Karen Sprinkler he had abducted at gunpoint from a parking lot outside a department store. He was dressed in woman's clothes during the attack. He took her to his garage, made her try on a collection of undergarments to pose while he photographed her. He raped her and strangled her by hanging her by the neck from a pulley. He also had sex with her body on several occasions, cut off her breasts to make plastic molds. Afterward, he tied the body to a 6-cylinder car engine with a nylon cord and threw it in the Willamette.
Oh my goodness.
So he's taking all these women, doing horrible things to them, and tossing them in a
All
river.
in the same spot.
Yep.
My goodness.
One of the girls that got away was Sharon Wood. On April 21st, 1969, he attempted to abduct her at gunpoint from a basement floor parking garage in Portland. But she got away, so thank God for her.
Lucky, yeah, man.
Another one he had attempted to abduct on April 22nd, 1969 was 15-year-old Gloria Jean Smith. She also got away.
Oh, man, thank goodness.
Another not-so-lucky lady was Linda Salee. She was 22. She was abducted from a shopping mall parking lot on April 23rd, 1969. He brought her to his garage where he raped and strangled her, then played with her corpse. He decided not to cut her breasts off, though, because, quote, they were too pink.
Mm.
Right. But instead applied an electric current to the body in an attempt to make it, quote, jump.
Wow.
Right, which failed. Afterward, he tied her body to the transmission of a car with a nylon cord and threw it in the Willamette.
My goodness, if anybody ever stumbles upon anything in the Willamette there.
Yeah, right?
Oof.
Don't pull up any car parts.
Holy cow.
After each murder, Jerry would dress up in high heels and masturbate at the thought of what he had just done.
Wow.
Sick.
That is twisted. That is wild, man.
To keep his wife from discovering the disgusting things he was doing in the garage, she was required to ring an intercom bell if she ever needed anything from him or had to talk to him. So she wasn't allowed to just come in.
So
he had an intercom system. Big time.
My significant other, right?
It's like all locked up like a fortress, and you can't come in unless you call me. At some point after murdering Karen, the family was away when a drunk driver crashed into their home, leaving a gaping hole in the building large enough for full view inside.
Oh my goodness. What are the chances of that?
The police who came to investigate were either oblivious or incompetent.
No
questions were ever asked about the smell that must have been emanating from the plastic wrapped body in the outbuilding in the yard. He later told detectives while recounting the incident, that was close.
Oh my God.
Right.
Wow. What are the chances? It's almost like there's a sign from above coming in and put this car through your house.
And then the police are like,
to stop it.
I don't see it.
Oh my
And there's
goodness.
a stinking, rotting body in your yard.
That is insane.
In a desperate attempt to find more victims, he began randomly calling college dorm rooms at OSU and Corvallis, trying to talk to the women and set up a date. Well, one woman, she took the bait and went on a date with him.
Oh, no.
Which later helped solve the case.
Oh, okay. Well, that's positive then, right?
Right. On May 10th, 1969, a fisherman discovered the body of Linda Salee, weighted down by the car transmission in the Long Tom River. 2 days later, police discovered Carolyn's sprinklers just 50 feet away. Salee had been mutilated in a very specific fashion, and the knots binding both women to the car parts weighing them down were distinctive. Copper wire was also used, tied in such a way as to suggest that the killer had a possible background as an electrician, which Brudos did. The detectives were able to identify both bodies via dental records, and Sprinkler's background as a college student gave them the idea to talk to local college sororities. The student who had gone on the date with the guy who had called her dorm room, she effectively broke the case wide open. Jerry had slipped up during their date. He creeped her out when he mentioned a little too casually the 2 dead women that had recently been found in the river. Not your typical first date, wine and dine kind of conversation, right? In fact, it struck her as odd enough that she mentioned it to the police when they came with their investigation.
Wow. Very good, man. Holy cow.
Right. The young woman agreed to work with officers to lure the man into meeting for another date. But instead of a potential female victim, he was met by 2 detectives. He remained cool, though. He answered all the questions and gave them no appearance of anything to hide. Nonetheless, the detectives decided to dig a little further into his background, even going as far as to visit his home with some follow-up questions.
All right. So finally, it sounds like we're actually getting some very good police work on this case, because some of them that we go through, it just blows my mind.
How long it just keeps getting overlooked.
And how shoddy the work is that's done by some of the police.
Yeah, you'll learn
detectives.
That the actual killer was like on their list for years.
Insane, yeah. Dude.
Right.
Wow.
The 2 investigators ended up inside the family garage, and what they found was really unnerving. Copper wire, cut with the same implement as the wire found in the bodies in the river, dozens of photographs of dead women, posed in suggestive postures, all wearing high-heeled shoes, dismembered and mutilated body parts in the freezer.
Wow.
Yeah. On June 28th, 1969, Jerry Brudos pled guilty to 3 first-degree murders of Whitney, Sprinkler, and Salee. He confessed to the murder of Linda Slauson, but oddly enough was never tried or convicted of it. He was sentenced to 3 consecutive life terms in the Oregon State Penitentiary.
Holy cow. Good riddance.
Right? Okay, so this story kind of reminds me of a lot of the other ones that we had talked about before, like Edmund Kemper. And just like Kemper, he was also interviewed by the guys that did Mindhunter. I don't know if you've seen this show on Netflix, but it's a true story about the FBI guys that coined the term serial killer and learned how to profile these guys so they knew who they were looking for. And he was one of the ones that they had talked to learn about.
Yeah, okay. So sounds like he's more than open with what he's done.
Oh, yeah, he talked about it and told them everything.
Which, I mean, you know, you gotta love in a way, because a lot of times these people get caught, and a lot like this Lisk serial killer, like we would only hope that he comes out and says something, right? So you know what happened.
Yeah, we want to know for sure. And although some of them may be full of BS, but you can tell when they're telling the truth and it's corroborating with everything that the police have found.
Yeah.
And it kind of gives you a little look inside the psyche of one of these sick weirdos, right?
Yeah, it does. When they talk freely, you get a whole look inside there, and then you know what happened,
Right.
which
Really interesting.
I don't know. I think would be, in a way, good to know. I don't
The
know,
whole
rather
story,
than
rather
not knowing
right,
anything.
rather than assuming.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't know.
And
It'd
that's
be
why we
tough.
follow this stuff. That's what we like to hear. We want to know. It's hard for us to wrap our minds around the abnormal mindset. So that's why we
Right.
study these people and learn about it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's the wild, creepy story of Jerry Brudos.
All right, we want to take this time here to say thanks for joining us on another episode of Our Killer Obsession. And we hope that you enjoyed our episode and would give us a thumbs up, give us a like, subscribe, all that. We're trying to push our show to the algorithm on YouTube and hopefully out to a wider audience. So it'd be greatly, greatly appreciated.
All right. And don't forget to come back next week for another true crime tale.
Absolutely. We'll see you then.